Hello everybody and welcome to Work to Game. My name is Brian, and in this video and this guide we are going to be talking about Samurai 50 and 60 controller guide. For this guide we're going to be talking about hotbar layouts. We're going to then go into macros, any other additional notes that we're using. And finally we're going to finish this up with various controller tips, HUD layouts, and various ways of targeting as a DPS in the world of Final Fantasy XIV. So before we begin, I want to say a special thanks to Sean and to Sidelent for their support. Your support over at Patreon makes videos like this possible, as well as your voting for jobs like this. Be sure to check out our Patreon for the next job poll coming up soon. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this guide. Okay, so today we're starting off with the cross hotbar layout. I do want to say a special editor's note. English is a language I struggle with. I'm very dyslexic, so I'm going to do my best to pronounce these skills. It's obviously very challenging with my own language, yet alone with a language that is derived from obviously Japanese culture. So with all due respect, I am going to try my best to pronounce this the correct way. If you are offended, I do apologize, as well as that if hearing mispronounced words are offended, I would recommend maybe checking out somebody other's channel. But for the time being, it is what it is, so let's go ahead and just do this. Now, this is for the Samurai, level 50 and 60. I kind of group these together. You get the job at level 50. I feel like I want to spend some time with it and get a comfort level for it. So this is my hotbar layout. This does not mean that this is the best way to do it. I hope and pray that you guys kind of take this and make this your own. Hopefully this might be a jumping off point. I do want to thank Matt for sharing some of his screenshots, as well as Leon Lionheart for sharing some of his advice as well as I was preparing to do this guide and play this job. I have to say I love Samurai. I am obviously level 66, almost level 70. You'll be seeing a level 70 guide on the channel, if not already on the channel by the time you're watching this video. I wanted to break them up this way because as you learn different skills, layouts, and things like that change, but for the most part, starting out, hopefully this gives you a really good base of where to start and how to play the job itself. Now, I said at the beginning of in the intro, we're going to be doing kind of the HUD layout last. One of the things that often gets asked is about various targeting, various tips and tricks when it comes to using the controller. And while we do have videos that reference that specifically, I will spend some time at the end of this video for that rather than at the beginning of this video. We'll start with the layout, like I said, and then we're going to go into more tips and tricks. So starting with, as we usually do, with the top hotbar. And if you want to know how I create this and set this, be sure to watch all the way through to the end of the video. So I have Sprint. Sprint costs no TP in Stormblood, very handy and useful. So I have it here. I want to know when it's off cooldown. I'll show you how to actually access that. I am never clicking any of these abilities. These are just to communicate cooldowns. Then I have Yatin. What this does is this is my jump back. This allows me to obviously get out of dodge and hopefully not over a cliff as I like to do sometimes with my red mage. Then I have Ageta. This is your ability whenever the enemy is below 20%. This is a nice little off the global cooldown ability. I highly recommend it. Now, you obviously don't see it down here, and we'll talk about why here in a minute. Then Merciful Eyes, restoring your own HP, obviously very helpful. Once again, this is a great ability. I have it up here so that I know when I can use it. In that way it's important, but it's not something that I'm always using. Ideally, in an ideal world, I'm a DPS who doesn't take much damage. I know sometimes you can get in the zone, and it happens. And that's why you also have Bloodbath, the ability to also restore HP by dealing damage in and of itself. And then I have Second Wind. So these are kind of like, hey, don't forget, you can help out a healer. If you're standing in bad, help them out. Use a cooldown in this regard. Now, Bloodbath and Second Wind are both cross-roll abilities. You can feel free to supplement them with whatever abilities you choose to take at that time. Another cross-roll ability, Invigorate. Great for restoring TP. This is huge, especially if you're doing a lot of AoE pulls, because your TP is going to melt away. But for the most part, having this is a huge boost and a huge help. And then finally, Megeko Saisuni. Regardless of it, it is a great ability that basically makes all of your abilities ready to roll. So all your weapon skills without needing to do the combo prerequisites. I love this ability. It's an 80-second cooldown. You're going to use it. You're going to use it a lot, and I'll show you where I've gotten mine mounted as well. So starting with the left cross hotbar here, You can see that obviously with the Samurai, I'm not really taking a lot of advantage of the double cross hotbar. There's a lot of space. In fact, I could even move diversion over here if I so choose. I try to keep things in the same place as I play across multiple jobs. And this is important for muscle memory. Now, being somebody who plays a lot of jobs, I try to keep things, like I said, in the exact same place across those jobs whenever possible so that I'm not confused when I change jobs into another thing. It's not always going to work, keep in mind. It's not always going to play out the way you want, but for the most part, you can see I do have a lot of space as a Samurai, which I love because that means as I go into the 70 guide, I'm going to have a lot of things to play around with. Anyway, third eye is on the left cross hotbar, and then I've got Meditate. So then you see here, I've got my little AoE build up here. So Fuga, Mangetsu, and then Oka here. So obviously this combos to Mangetsu, and then this to Oka, which is going to fill up your your moon and flower combos here. So what this does is it gives you the ability to do a combo. We're going to show that here just in a little bit. Then I have a a macro called In and Out. Without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump into it so I can show you guys what exactly it is for itself. Now, I'm showing the macro icon for Goten. This is your jump in. However, the first ability I'm going to use is Yatin. That's my jump out. So if I'm too far away, it's not going to work. It uses fail through, which I usually say is that if I can't use Yatin, then it's going to use Goten. Otherwise, if I'm close, that means this becomes my jump back ability as opposed to my jump in, and thus it would use Yatin and I would jump out, and then I can even press that button again, assuming I have enough points in my Kenki gauge to go ahead and do that. So that's why I call this ability In and Out. It's a one button press. Now it's always important that I know that I can use Yatin. It's got a recast time of 10 seconds, so I want to know because it's hidden behind the In and Out macro itself. So anyway, feel free to use macros. I do kind of a warning when it comes to DPS. It is a DPS loss because of how macros are coded, but for the most part, for the most content, unless you're really doing savage content, you're going to be fine. All right, so for the right cross hotbar, let's go ahead and do it in the way that I kind of fight. So we've got Hakeze, Shifu, and Kasha. So this is your flower combo. Now you can see here I've got it from A, B, and Y, which I use kind of the Xbox standard layout. If you have a PlayStation, it's kind of same kind of combo. You can see that my flower is right here. Now, then I've got Hakaze, Jinpu, and then Gecko, which is my moon. You can see my moon right here. And then I've got obviously Hagase to Yukakaze. My gosh, they were like, this is gonna be the best work to game video ever. Brian can't pronounce basic words. Anyway, so the reason behind the layout, the reason behind flower, moon, and ice is that if you look at the flower, moon, and ice gauge right here, I've got ice, moon, and flower, and I have those in the same order to line these up, so that way mentally, for some reason, if you have a mental moment, you forget, oh, what was I doing moon, was I needing to do flower, you can kind of line these up with where they are on your hotbar. I did this specifically and on purpose, so that way I know ice is here, moon is here, and flower is here. Again, feel free to kind of take this, run with this in your own way, but I wanted an easy way to communicate what am I looking to fill up so that I can then do my abilities. So, and then I've got cotton, and then I have a thing called power play. Now, it is important to note, I am still on the fence about this macro. I'm going to show you guys here in a second why that is. You can always just access Ijetsu right here, and then Diversion, which is on my double cross hotbar here in a second. But let's go ahead and take a look at power play. This is a little bit controversial even for me, so feel free to use it as you choose. And we're going to look at power play right here. So it's using the Ijetsu macro icon. That means it's going to change to whatever is queued up based off of how you've set it up. Now, the other one you can see here, the first ability it's going to try to use is a Gethe, which is that 20% ability. If I kind of hover over it, that's whenever it only comes up when the enemy's HP is below 20%, then you can use it, and it still has a minute cooldown, so it's not up all the time. For the most part, for all of the content that I've played, it works really well, with the one exception being sometimes when the enemy's HP is below 20%, and I use cotton, sorry. If you don't have more, if you only have 20, you can end up using this ability when you're trying to, use your biggest hitting ability and we'll go and show that actually in our actions and traits. So the reason, like, I'd have to go hit something for it to show up. So let's go take a look at what these abilities are themselves. So you have Higabane, so that's whenever you do you have any one of your elements, the moon, the flower, or ice that are up that you can do. And it's got a damage over effect, a dot, that's going to last 60 seconds. Now, comboing these together, huge boost. Again, this is a 50% weapon, potency to the next weapon skill, and this is something that is going to be beautiful for in and of itself. So that is a weapon skill as well, so it applies. Here's your AoE. So when I was talking about AoE, whenever you pop these two guys, you can actually then do your nice little AoE booster here, for your weapon skill for Taken Goken. And then obviously Medair Setsugeke, which is going to be your big hitting 720 potency. Now you add an additional 50% potency to that. This is huge. This melts things, and it's only going to get better in patch 4.3, which is out on Tuesday. If you're watching this in the future, it's already out, and Samurai is going to be all the better for it. Now, I bring that up because when you're wanting to hit for over 1,000 potency, and then you accidentally hit for just over 300, 400, can be a little bit frustrating. So use this sparingly or kindly. Obviously, you can drop this anywhere else you prefer, but I kind of try to like to keep mentally, single target, AoE target. I'm weird like that, but that's just me. Feel free, again, like I said, to make it your own. We still got a couple of hotbars to jump into, so let's do that. Now, obviously, I said I have a lot of cooldowns here, but you couldn't really see those abilities, and they're here on the expanded cross hotbar. So for me, I hold the triggers L1 on L2, R2 in this case to bring it up, but that's set to my level 2 or my second cross hotbar here. I got my leg sweep. This again is a crossbow ability. The reason I have this here is because all of my stuns same place on any job. I don't have to think about it. I just do this and press stun. We're ready to rock and roll. Here is obviously my Mageko ability. I have Empai, which is for whenever I'm ranged, if I want to be able to kind of have a ranged target that I can go ahead and just be able to tag them with. And then if I need Yatin specifically, I have it listed right here. Merciful Eyes, this is the heal, again, like it's mapped up here as well. Then Invigorate, Bloodbath, and Second Wind. All of those abilities right here, I know whenever they're off of cooldown, so I can easily access them at any time. Right trigger, L trigger, brings up my limit break, my book, sprint, mounts, and various targeting macros that I use from time to time. And that is actually set as my level 7, cross hotbar, because this is a part of being shared. And we're going to dive into that here in a little bit. So that is my cross hotbar layout. It's very, I think, clean and simple and very comfortable. Samurai is, I think, very a very powerful job. So if you're looking at checking this out and you're wondering how it's going to work on the controller, trust me when I say it's very easy. It's very easy to learn. It's very easy to get into. Just find something that works comfortably. And if you're playing any other DPSs, try to make it easier on yourself. Make muscle memory work in your favor, and that way you don't end up having to redo a lot of stuff there. So, okay, we talked about our cross hotbar layout. We covered the 2 macros for that as well. So let's go ahead and talk about the HUD layout in and of itself. So your HUD layout is very important. You can have up to 4 roles that you kind of have set. And you can even set these via macros. I recommend kind of Googling that. I might have covered it in another video, but off the top of my head, I cannot remember the command itself, but I know if I can find it, I'll try to link it in the description below. But for the most part, you can pick those, and then you can pick your various objects, and you have various settings that you can manage with those. You can change out how they look, if they're visible, if they're not. But as far as my hotbar layout goes, I've got 4 and 5 here if I ever need any help learning rotations. I've talked about this in the Learnings Rotations Guides video, in which that basically if you're having trouble memorizing your rotation, the order your opener, or however you should go into it, feel free to just set abilities onto these hotbars. That way whenever you just need to glance over and you can learn that. I've got a progress bar, my focus target bar, and my enemy list right here. I use this for tanking, healing, and DPS. A lot of people have come up with some really awesome layouts. Feel free to check out any of those. I'm sure that people link those on Reddit and stuff. I found some interesting ones. For the most part, you can see my Kenki gauge, my Sen gauge, which I was saying, like the ice, moon, and flower. It looks like I'm selling things like crazy, which is great. My status effects, enfeeblements, and enhancements, I've got this split up over here, and you can do that under settings where you can split them or you can put them in one single bar. It's very easy to kind of really manipulate all of these things as well as increase them in size. I have Hotbar 3 here, and again, I said I'm going to show you guys how to set this, especially if you're on a controller, especially if you're on a PS4. I know a lot of people are like, how do I do that without a mouse? So I want to make sure I cover that here in a little bit. My left cross hotbar and my right W cross hotbar. This is my expanded hotbar. Again, I'm not really using it for Samurai, but I probably will be as we hit level 70. Cross hotbar, parameters, obviously my hit points, and then my experience bar here as well. Up here at the top, I've got targets, and then other various things, party list on the side itself. You can move and rearrange any of these elements if you haven't really played around with it. There's a lot of power here. There's a lot of strength in your HUD. And then there's even more strength in your character configuration. So let's go into it. So we got hotbar settings. Here is where you can kind of control lots of various things. Sharing is the first place I'm going to stop at because it's so important. Because this means that anytime it's unchecked, it's specific to the job you're playing. Anytime it is checked, as you can see here, it is shared across all jobs. This game encourages you to play multiple jobs, and this makes it very handy because, again, I don't want to set my mounts or my limit break every time I have a job. Maybe you do, and that they're going to give you the option here. So be sure of that. Now, your hotbars are anything like this, and your cross hotbars are anything where you have to I have to exit out of this, where you press and hold L1 to cycle through your 8 hotbars themselves. If you turn on cycling, you can actually limit and select which ones go through by just pressing the R1 or the R bumper icon. But for the most part, you can then hold and press and cycle through all of those and goes from there. So we talked about sharing. That's super important. Lots of settings in here that I recommend you play around with. But it's important that I use hold. You can check out toggle and mixed. I used to play around with those, but eventually I've gone to a hold methodology, which allows me to do a lot more things. And then I have always display W cross hotbar, return to W cross hotbar after input, and position the W cross hotbar separately. You can have it use its defaults, but the important one is I have it always return. So when I use an ability, I don't have to then press the right trigger again. It means that anything I put on my W cross hotbars is a one-off. It's not going to do it's not going to keep me out there. You can control a lot of things with this system. It's super powerful. You can even make it expanded even with more. I only use 4, which you can see here. And so if you're not using the W cross hotbar in a controller, you can enable it under the custom settings here within your character configuration, under your hotbar settings right there. You can turn it into 8, so that would turn on the directional buttons, which you could hold and use if desired. It's up to you. And then you set which hotbar it pulls from. In this case, my W cross hotbar pulls from 3 left and 3 right, while my expanded cross hotbar pulls from 2 left, which is shared, and then 7 right, which is shared, and 2 left, which is job specific. And then you see here you have your various filter settings. Well, I can say enable customization when my weapon is sheathed. So my weapon's put away, and if I press that right bumper, that R1, in this case I'm going to use hotbar 1, 7, and 8, and that's all I'm going to cycle through. Whenever my weapon is drawn, I'm not going to get off of this hotbar 1. I don't like pressing. I don't want to end up finding myself trying to do some kind of emote when we were trying to burn down a boss, etc. You can have separate settings for PvP as well, which is very handy and very easy to use. So they've really thought of everything when it comes to your comfort in laying out your cross hotbars. If you guys have any questions about this, again, like I said, I'm doing a quick overview at this point. Be sure to check out my previous videos regarding getting comfortable with the controller in Final Fantasy XIV. All right, let's talk about targeting. Targeting is always going to be huge. I have automatically lock on targeting when auto attacking turned off just because I find it easy to disengage. You can lock on a target by pressing down on the left stick like a clicking button. So I'm not actually meaning pull down on it. I mean press it like a button and you can lock on. You can turn that on at any time. This will automatically have you lock on. Find what works for you. In this case, I am not necessarily the biggest fan of it. And that's kind of what I want to show right here as well. Now, if we talk about filters, filters are going to make your life, it could make it horrible or it could make it the best. And what this is that when you have 2 basic ones, when your weapon is put away and when your weapon is out. I make sure I never target party members when I'm moving left and right on the D-pad. That's your default way to target. You can do various other ways to target with it. So again, I dive into that in a lot of detail. But regarding filters, I have a custom for when my weapon's away. I don't want to target pets and minions. I don't want to target party members anytime because up and down on the D-pad will cycle through my party members. It makes it super easy. All enemies, aggroing, NPC objects, etc., etc. Now, when my weapon is out, I'm all about duty-specific enemies any aggroing enemies, and all enemies in specifically. I do not want to target anything else. I only want to focus on that. As a healer, you might have a different idea, especially when it comes to alliance members, which you can see I have turned off here, just like with party. However, when my weapon's up, I will allow myself to target alliance members if desired. Then you also have this filter customization section. Enable customization by holding down LB, essentially L1, and Y, B, or X and A. So you actually, any of the face buttons and holding down LB will automatically apply any of these filters that you build out. So you can build them out for anything else. I have all, enemies, friends, and custom. So if I just really want to target alliance members, that would be LB and the A button. So just show that here for you. I'm not going to save my changes. Now, you can see here, I'm in this custom alliance targeting mode, which is right above my preferences. All, friends, enemies. So you can see here that I can just draw my weapon, and then it goes back to how I have it. So that's going to show you your targeting mode listed out right there. All right, guys, finally, we talked a lot about the controller layout and these skills. Number one question I get is like, well, how do you access them? Well, you don't. This is just to communicate them. Now, if you do not have a keyboard and mouse hooked up to where you can drag and drop these abilities onto it, I showed you Hotbar 3 is what I've got set here. I do that because then I don't want those numbers for any kind of keybinds showing up on this. This is supposed to be clean. I also have it to hide unused slots. Again, all of these settings under character variation and hotbar settings as well. So hide unused slots there for you. So how do you drag and drop? Well, if you do not have a mouse, you can press and hold the LB, L1 button and press down on the right stick. This is going to take you into virtual mouse mode. This means left trigger is a click and right trigger is a right click, and you can leave this mode by pressing LB and holding down LB and pressing down on the right stick again. So what this does, this enables me to go into my actions and traits and goes into my actions, and I can go and use my right stick to move like a mouse, use my left stick to click and drag, and then I can drag and place right there. Not necessarily the most convenient, but it is what you need for that ability to be able to set those. So hopefully you guys have found that correct. Hopefully you found that to be informative. Hopefully you've found this to be fun. I hope you love Samurai as much as I am loving Samurai at this moment. And if you guys want, you can always press and hold down LB and then press your select or back button to be able to get this awesome view of your house or wherever you choose to be without the use of the UI, and go from there. Anyway, guys, my name's Worked a Game. Yeah, this is great. My name is Brian. This is Worked a Game. Thanks so much for watching this video, this guide. Let me know in the comments below if you have any tips, tricks for beginners, for people starting out with Samurai. Is there anything I missed? Obviously, I probably mispronounced a lot of things. Again, I apologize for that. But I've had a lot of fun with this job, and I want to share that with you guys. And hopefully, if you're using a controller and you have such a passion, like I do, that you find 14 a very welcoming experience. I know that some of it can be a little bit overwhelming, but I guarantee that if you stick with it, you're going to become someone who's very comfortable and somebody who's very skilled at this game. Anyway, guys, so thank you again so much for watching this video. Again, like I said, sound off in the comments below what you're thinking. Love to have that conversation with you. But until next time, until level 70, my name is Brian, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.
Have you ever wondered what's on the other side of the camera from a YouTuber? Because sometimes it's really bad. Like right now, my house is under renovation, and so just to show you, there's like a desk with stuff that doesn't have a home, and then there's other stuff that doesn't have a home, and then there's a few things that do have a home. And some days, this is 100% clean around me, and other days, there is literally a mess as close as right here, just out of frame.